Do I even like my hair like this? I really cannot decide. Hey, what's up you guys, it's Aria. Welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving you all of my tips on how to make straight A's. This video is definitely more geared towards high school. I have done very well in college too, so if you guys want me to make a video more geared towards college, I can totally do that. That being said, if you're in college, I still think that a lot of these tips can be useful. I just feel like the way that college learning is set up is a lot different than high school learning. I remember watching a lot of these videos and people would always just say stuff like, be organized and do your homework, and like, no shit, yeah. So hopefully I'm gonna be able to give you guys some tips that you haven't heard before. This video is probably gonna be kind of long, so I'm gonna have it split up into chapters. I would recommend that you watch the whole video because I kind of have like a specific order that I want to talk about things, but I totally understand if you want to just skip around. So with that, let's just get into the video. So before we get into the actual tips, I just kind of want to show you my qualifications or like credentials, so that way you know that I am qualified to be talking about this. I also need to make the disclaimer that this is in no way me bragging. This isn't me like trying to flex or something. If anything, it just speaks to like how much I lack a social life and how lame I was in high school. I've just been a little bit less lame in college, just like a little bit. If I can find it, I will put up on the screen my high school transcript. I made 1B my entire high school career. It was in freaking Spanish 3. We're not going to talk about it. So here are my stats from high school. I had a 4.67 GPA, I think. Why does my throat get so freaking raspy every time I talk? I don't sound like this in real life, I don't think. I was also ranked number 11 out of like 600 students, I believe. I also took 8 AP classes, 4 dual enrollment classes, and then the rest of my classes were all honors except like gym and like freshman year art. So I was definitely taking like harder level classes as well. I've also done pretty well in college. I've only been through 1 year of college, but I have a 3.96 GPA. It would have been a 4.0, but I got an A- in Calc 2. We're just not going to talk about that. So now that I've shown you my qualifications, I guess let's just get right into the tips. So the first thing that I want to talk about is probably the most important thing, and that is your mindset. The literal key to making straight A's and making good grades in general is you have to realize school is really not about intelligence. It's really not, especially high school. It's just really not about intelligence. Trust me, I'm actually like not that smart. Like I don't necessarily pick up things quickly. My common sense is honestly really bad sometimes. School is literally just about following directions, memorizing things, and putting in like a certain amount of work. You really don't have to be naturally good at school or like naturally smart to do well. I feel like we all know somebody who's like really smart, but they always make like C's and stuff because they just like don't care. I can also tell you that I was not always like a good student. All through elementary school and middle school, I literally just like did not give a shit about my grades. I was just having a good time. I was making all B's and C's, which like not that that's necessarily bad, but it's obviously not straight A's. But then once I got to high school, I decided that I really wanted to try. I also wasn't really put in like honors classes until 8th grade, so you definitely don't have to be like one of those like naturally gifted students. Like I remember feeling like shit in elementary school because I like wasn't put in like those gifted classes. But yeah, so you do not have to be naturally good at school. You don't have to be naturally organized. You don't have to be like naturally good at math or like writing or something. Because school is honestly just, it's not really about being smart. It really does not, in my opinion, test your intelligence. This is obviously all based on my own personal experience, but I feel like I have taken a wide range of classes. Like I took a lot of APs, I took dual enrollments, and then I took all other honors classes. I took like a pretty good variety of subjects. If you believe that you're not smart enough to get straight A's, it will be very difficult for you to get straight A's because you will have that mental block. I would say that I was able to really start making good grades when I just like kind of shifted my mindset and I was like, okay, this is possible for me. If I put in the work, I'm going to do well. If I figure out exactly what I need to do for this class, I'm going to do well. That being said though, I do want to say that obviously somebody's circumstances do play a role. Like I know some people in high school have to worry about like working jobs or helping out their families, and I don't want to make this video to like shit on those people and say that like they're not trying or something, because they definitely have a lot more going on. I was very fortunate in that when I was in high school, I got to just focus on school and nothing else. I worked like in the summers, but I didn't have to work during the year. Mindset is very important. You need to truly believe that it is possible for you to make good grades. That kind of, I know some people believe in like the law of attraction stuff, which is where like you have to like think it for it to happen. I don't really know if I believe in that, but I do think that if you don't even believe in yourself, that's going to hold you back from actually being able to do well. I have talked talked enough about this. Let's move into our next tip, which is all about motivation. Okay, I'm sorry if the lighting changed. I just like moved my studio light because I feel like there was like a weird shadow on my face before. I don't know. So I feel like a lot of times I hear people say I'm just not motivated enough, which I understand where people are coming from when they say that, but like I'm not motivated all the time either. Like most of the time I don't feel like doing my homework. Most of the time I don't really feel like studying. Nobody ever really feels like doing their homework, you know? I would say what's more important than motivation is self-discipline. So I feel like I used to lack self-discipline when I decided that I really wanted to be a better student and really try a lot harder in my classes and strive for straight A's. I just had to really work on my self-discipline. I've become like so self-disciplined. I kind of hate the word discipline, but like I just can't. I don't know what else to say. I have become so self-disciplined that it's just no question. Like I have to do my homework. Like there's no option. There's no like, maybe I won't do it. I have to do it. If you guys want me to make a whole other video about like how to get yourself to be more productive, how to get yourself to be more self-disciplined, I can totally do that because I feel like that's a really big topic, and if I go too into detail in this video, it will be like 45 minutes long, which you don't want to watch that. I don't want to edit that. So developing good self-discipline is very important. Motivation is still important. Like if you literally have like no motivators to make straight A's, first of all, I don't really know why you're watching this video, but I'll just kind of go into some examples of some good motivators and some bad ones. So personally for me in high school, my main motivation was that I wanted to get into an elite college, which didn't end up happening, but it's fine. We're just not gonna go into that. But that was my main motivation. Whenever I was just feeling really super unmotivated, something that I would do was I would just like Google the schools that I wanted to get into, and I would like look on their websites, I would look at all their buildings, I would look at like the classes I wanted to take, like the programs I was interested in, and then I would look up the stats that you needed to get into those schools, and I would just kind of be reminded, okay, if I want this, I have to work hard. I even like made myself like a little Pinterest board with like aesthetic like pictures of the colleges that I wanted to get into, and I would just kind of like picture what my life would be like if I was there, which that's a whole other issue on its own, like romanticizing getting into a certain college and thinking that that's going to solve all of your issues, because it definitely doesn't. Another thing is that I just kind of got really competitive once I learned what class rank was. This probably isn't healthy, but at the end of sophomore year we got like our class rank, and I was ranked like 25 of like 600, which is like very good, but I was like, I could do better than that. Like I just didn't expect to rank that well, so I was like, if I can rank that, like I haven't even going as hard as I possibly can. So that kind of motivated me to make straight A's because I wanted my rank to be as high as it possibly could be. So for you, your motivation could be a certain school that you want to get into. Maybe you're also really competitive. Maybe you have like an overachieving sibling and you want to like humble them or something. I don't know. I don't have siblings. One thing that I do want to touch on with motivation is that your motivation should not be my parents want me to make straight A's. If that is your main motivation, you just can't, like that's just not going to work. Like if you're only motivated to do something because other people want you to, it's going to be really hard for you to push through when things get difficult, when you really don't feel like studying, when you're tired. So basically, to wrap up this point, motivation is important, but self-discipline is even more important. So another super important thing that I want to talk about is time management. In order to make straight A's but also do all of your activities, maybe work at a job, maybe somewhat have a social life, maybe get sleep, you need to be able to effectively manage your time. So the two keys that I have found for me with time management is developing a good homework schedule and learning how to multitask effectively. So I realized that like a good homework schedule is kind of a broad description, and you're like, okay, like what does a good homework schedule mean? So I'm gonna give you a few different examples of the different homework schedules that I set for myself in high school, because it really depends on what you have going on in your life and the difficulty of the classes you were taking. So my sophomore year of high school, I took one AP class. It was AP World. Since I was only taking one AP, it wasn't too bad, but if you've taken AP World, you know that there's like a lot of reading and just a lot of like bullshit work that you have to get through. So sophomore year of high school, I would get home at like 2 p.m., which I know is really early, but my school started at like 7 a.m. So basically I just ended up developing this rule for myself that no matter what, I would work till 4 p.m. So if I finished my homework at 3:30, I would start working on other assignments that weren't due for like a few weeks, maybe even like a month or something. And usually those assignments were AP AP World related, I would just like start on readings ahead of time, because if you have a good teacher, hopefully they'll give you like a syllabus and you'll be able to see what's coming up. Even if I finish my homework at like 2:15 or like 2:30 or like something ridiculously early, no matter what, I would always work till 4 o'clock. And this kept me from having to do homework on the weekends. It kept me from having to study at the last minute, and it just worked really, really well for me because I was only taking one AP class and like I didn't really have that many activities going on. I had a few, but it wasn't anything too crazy. However, this did not work for me my next 2 years of high school, so I will get into those schedules next. So my junior year, I was taking 3 APs, and I was also doing a lot of activities and also studying for the ACT, because junior year is really important for getting into college. I feel like most people know that. So I still had kind of a similar schedule, except what I would do is I would do all of my homework. Usually I had like a few hours worth of homework. I would say I tended to finish my homework around like 4:30, sometimes 5. So basically whatever extra time I had till 6 o'clock, I would just work on studying for the ACT. I would do practice tests, practice problems, all that kind of stuff. So this is kind of like similar to sophomore year, except I just like had more homework to be doing. But then senior year, I ended up doing something really different, because senior year I was writing all of my essays to apply to colleges. I ended up having to write 26 supplemental college essays, which is quite a lot, I know. I was also applying to colleges with like an art supplement because I did art throughout high school and I knew that I wanted to like major in it or like double major in it or something. So I was also working on my portfolio. So I just had a lot going on just for college apps. And then I was also taking 4 AP classes. I did luck out senior year that most of my classes assigned homework on more of like a weekly basis. For example, for my AP calculus class, we had 1 homework assignment a week, and it was like a weekly problem set, and so they were always due on like the first day of class of the week. And a lot of my other classes ended up working that way too. So what I ended up doing was during the week I would just prioritize college apps. I would do maybe a little bit of homework, but most of the time I was just working on my essays, I was working on my portfolio, I was just putting all of my time into college apps. And then what my friends and I did was on Sundays we would have what we called Sunday work day, which I know, like, super creative name. And we would go to our favorite cafe and we would literally all sit together for like 6 hours and just do all of our homework. So that's when I would do like all of my weekly assignments. That's when I would do all of the freaking reading that I had to do for AP Environmental Science. That's when I would do my calculus problem set. That's when I would just like catch up on any assignments that I hadn't done. And this worked really well for me. Even though it sucks to like sit down and do homework for 6 hours, it was just the most effective way for me to do it. You have to kind of look at what tasks you have to get done, how much you have, the difficulty of your classes, how much you need to be studying, and kind of figure out what homework schedule is going to work best for you and stick to that homework schedule. If you can, I think it's really important to have a consistent schedule, whether or not that's always doing homework for the same amount of time every day or always doing it like a certain day of the week. Whatever works for you. It's really important to be consistent though, because then you can kind of train your brain to always be working during certain hours. So the next thing I want to talk about with time management is multitasking. So many people don't know how to multitask well, and that is why they end up with so much homework when they get home. So I used to literally make a game out of getting as much homework as I possibly could get done during the school day. So if there was like 10 minutes after I finished a test, if the teacher was just like lecturing really slow and I didn't really need to be fully paying attention, I would be doing homework, or I would be like making a Quizlet to study for something. I feel like one of the advantages with high school is that you just have like a lot of bullshit assignments. Well, okay, it's not really an advantage, it's actually really fucking annoying, but you just have a lot of bullshit assignments to get through, and that's why you end up with so much homework, is because you just have to do so many like random worksheets and stuff for classes, and then you also have to study. So I would recommend getting any sort of easier assignments done at school, especially if your school has like a study period. Like I know we had like, God, what did we call it? What did we call it? I think we called it like AEP, which is like academic enrichment period. We had like 30 minutes between first and second period where we just had like a study hall basically. And there were so many people that would just like go on their phone, or they would just like play games on their computer, or literally I saw people like taking naps and stuff. And that just like blew my mind. Like, you have 30 minutes to just do whatever. Like, why not get your homework done so you don't have to worry about it when you get home? Like, I just don't understand. I will say there's some classes where you can't really do that in, like especially maybe like your AP classes, although it really depends on the AP and it really depends on the teacher, where you might be doing a lot and you might really need to be paying attention. Or sometimes teachers get mad if you're doing homework for another class and their class. But yeah, so there are going to be like some classes where you can't do that in, but I feel like every single year of high school I always had at least one class where we just really didn't do that much. Like, it was just kind of like a waste of time. So if you finish a test early, just start on a homework assignment. Even if you only have like 10 minutes left of class, just start on it. That's one less thing that you have to do when you get home. Also, some classes I feel like the teachers just like go through their PowerPoints so slowly. Like, there would be some teachers that would spend like 20 minutes on each slide and they would just be like rambling and talking about nothing. So I would just kind of like low-key be doing my homework. Obviously it's kind of hard to like study during class. Like I wouldn't recommend doing that. I would recommend studying like when you're at home by yourself. You definitely can't do this as much in college because you typically have shorter lectures and they're going a lot faster. But I know for me in high school, all of my classes were an hour and a half long and met every other day. So there was just always some downtime. So I would just really recommend starting on your homework. Okay, I feel like I have talked enough about time management. Now I'm going to talk about studying because I feel like so many people don't know how to study. And so many people think that you have to study for like 6 or like 10 hours or something, which you definitely don't need to do in high school. There were definitely a lot of times in college where I had to study that long. But in high school, you really don't need to do that. If you are studying effectively and efficiently, you will not have to study for like more than 2 hours. I also know a lot of people think that you have to start studying like a week before. I always studied the night before in high school. Again, I can't really do that in college, but I always studied the night before or like 2 days before, and I was completely fine. The only time I would say that you really want to start ahead is for like AP test or like the ACT or the SAT, just like bigger tests. But for just like your normal tests in high school, I would say you could probably study the night before. Sometimes I even studied the morning of, which I would not recommend. That's not a good idea. There is so much that I could say about like how to properly study. I am going to go into a few examples, but if you guys want a whole other video about how to actually study, I could totally do that because there's honestly just so much I could talk about with studying effectively. Studying methods definitely depend on the types of classes that you're taking. So for more like humanities classes like history and English, I think it's definitely more memorization related, whereas classes like chemistry, physics, math are more problem solving related. So the way that you're going to study for each of those classes is different. So for anything where you're having to memorize, so like I feel like especially in like history and like government, sometimes in English if we were reading like a certain book, there would just be like a lot of facts that you had to memorize. On the test, you would either just be asked to just recall those facts, or you would be asked to take those facts and maybe like do like a short answer question or like some sort of essay or something. But either way, you need to have those facts memorized. So I feel like everybody knows about Quizlet. Quizlet can be your best friend. If you've been using that though and you feel like it's not working, I would recommend trying to handwrite all of your flashcards. It is really tedious and annoying, but it has been shown that if you like actually physically write something out, you're gonna remember it a lot better versus just like typing it or just reading it. I know there have been times where I've really just like tried to go through Quizlets over and over again, but the information just isn't sticking for me. So I have to go and handwrite a bunch of flashcards, and once I do that, then it usually starts sticking a lot faster. So I feel like it's kind of nice when all you have to do to study is just memorize something. While it takes a long time to really get information memorized, at least there's like a clear path. Like you just have to memorize certain terms, certain facts or something. But I feel like where people more struggle for studying is for classes like chemistry, physics, math. I know so many people that are just like, you can't study for math. Like there's just nothing you can do, which I will say studying for those classes, I wouldn't even necessarily call studying per se. It's more practicing, because those classes are all based on problem solving. And so the only way to get better is to practice. So you just have to practice problems over and over again until you know, until you can recognize patterns in how they always ask the questions, how you're always supposed to solve them. So there would be times where I didn't really have to study for math, for example, because I had already done so many practice problems with the homework and in class that I just didn't really need to study. I already knew the information. But a lot of times for classes like chemistry and physics, while I had done a lot of practice problems, I still just wasn't quite at 100%. Another thing with practice problems is I think it's actually good to not ask for help and to not turn to Google. I know this sounds really weird, but if you think about like when you're doing like a math problem, for example, if you get the answer wrong, you can Google it and you can go read through somebody else's explanation and you'll probably just be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But then you go to do another similar question and you get it wrong again. And that is because all you did was just skim over somebody's explanation and you didn't really take the time to understand it. So what I would recommend doing is if you get a problem wrong, spend a really long time trying to figure it out on your own. It's so frustrating and you're gonna wanna like throw your homework across the room. If you manage to figure out the problem on your own, it is going to stick so much better than if you just read somebody else's explanation. Now, obviously, if you try for like 20 minutes or so and you still can't figure it out, then you should probably go online, ask your teacher. I will say for more of the problem-based classes, hopefully you've been doing practice problems before the time the test comes around. Otherwise, you are learning the material the night before, which I've definitely done, but that's super stressful and I really wouldn't recommend doing that. If you need to like find practice problems, I would either just like ask your teacher if they have any extra ones, or just go through the homework assignments and like cover up all the answers and stuff and just rework the problem. problems, especially if you got them wrong, you should definitely go and find the questions that you got wrong and do those. Don't just waste your time doing problems that you know how to do. Like say AP calculus, maybe you're like really amazing at taking derivatives, but on like limit related questions, you maybe aren't getting those 100% of the time. This is me speaking from personal experience. I was always really good at derivatives, but there was something about limits that it just like took some extra learning for me. So the night before my test, it would be a waste of time for me to just go through a bunch of derivative problems, even though it would probably make me feel really great about myself and I would be like, wow, I'm getting every question right. It's not productive. You should just be focusing on the problems that you struggle with and either just don't know how to do or aren't getting right all of the time. One last thing with studying is you need to make sure that your studying space is free of distractions. I don't just mean like your physical space, I also mean like kind of your mental space. So I like to have my phone across the room, maybe even in a different room when I'm studying, and also just doing my homework in general, because I will get distracted and I will like go start checking Instagram or like TikTok or something. Another thing is before I sit down to study, I make sure that I've already had like a snack, I've already like gone to the bathroom or something, just that way you're not like getting up and be like, I actually want a snack. Actually, I have to pee. Actually, maybe I want some water or something. Just if you just make sure that you've done those things before you actually sit down to study, it will go a lot smoother and you'll be able to get into that studying zone faster and then stay in the zone. I also don't really like to take a lot of breaks. I know some people like to do like 25 minutes of studying and then like a 5-minute break. I think that's called like the Pomodoro method or something. Personally, this does not work for me. If I stop working, even just for 5 minutes, it's gonna be hard for me to get back into the zone. That's everything I'm gonna talk about with studying methods. My last tip is kind of weird, but it has saved me a lot of frustration, and that is to assume your teacher is gonna be an asshole. So basically what I mean by this is like, let's say your teacher in class is like, hey, I'm gonna be posting the homework on Google Classroom or Canvas or something. Then you get home to do your homework and it's been like hours and the teacher has not posted the homework assignment. You could be like, okay, they didn't post it, I guess I don't have to do my homework. But then you might show up to class the next day and your teacher might be like, where's your homework? And you might be like, you didn't post it. And he might be like, why didn't you email me? You get a 0 for this assignment. Another example of this is when your teacher just finished explaining something and then they say, don't worry, this won't be on the test. Guess what's always on the fucking test? Every single damn time. So basically what I'm saying is just always assume that your teacher's gonna be an asshole. Just kind of like play devil's advocate. Always assume that they're not gonna take any excuses and that they're just gonna be like super harsh and strict. And obviously this is a really negative way to look at school, but it will save you from getting a 0 on an assignment. I would say especially in the first few weeks of like the new semester or new school year, I just kind of have really low expectations for my teachers. Like I just expect that it's gonna be a lot of work, they're gonna be really harsh, they're gonna be really strict, I'm gonna have to doing a lot of my own. And then after the first few weeks, you can kind of figure out which of your teachers you correctly assumed and which of them are actually nice teachers and you can actually trust them when they're like, hey, this won't actually be on the test. So that is all the tips that I have for you guys. I have literally been talking for like an hour and a half. I don't know how I'm going to edit this. This is gonna be really fun. Those are all my tips. Before we wrap up the video though, I just wanted to say that the most important thing is your mental and physical health, especially with everything going on right now, but also just in general, you need to prioritize your health over your grades. This is something that I'm still working on. I'm still working on letting go of like my obsession with grades. Anyways, that is all for this video. I will see you guys in the next one. Oh, another thing that I want to say before we wrap up this video, for those of you that like are very loyal subscribers and watch all of my videos, I've been posting like twice a week most of the summer, but I'm just letting you guys know that I'm probably definitely not going to be able to do that when school starts because I'm going to be taking 18 credits and also just like college is kind of a lot, so I'm going to be posting once a week. I think I'm going to be posting every single Thursday. I will definitely let you know if that changes though. I wish I could keep posting twice a week for you guys because I love making videos, but I just need to make good grades in college as well. So yeah, I will see you guys for my next video. I really hope this was helpful, entertaining maybe. I don't know. I really don't know if this made any sense. Anyways, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! Oh my god, I just talked for so long.